Have you ever been to a networking event and felt lost among all the conversations, unsure of how to truly stand out? Or perhaps you've felt that your professional connections aren't as strategic as they could be. We know that in a world where networking is essential for professional growth, creating authentic and high-value relationships can be challenging. This video will show you how specific persuasion techniques can transform your interactions, helping you build and strengthen professional connections that truly make a difference. Today, we're going to explore 8 practical and proven persuasion techniques to stand out at networking events and strengthen your network. Each technique is chosen to be directly applicable, whether in face-to-face events or in daily professional interactions. From the importance of active listening to the ideal way to follow up after an event, this video covers everything you need to make your connections more strategic and meaningful. So, if you're looking for effective ways to build valuable professional relationships, stay with me until the end. The techniques I'll share could be the difference between being just another face in the crowd or someone who will be remembered and sought after for future opportunities. And if you enjoy this topic, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your experiences in the comments. Let's dive into this content. In the world of networking, one of the most common mistakes is believing we need to impress people right away by talking about our achievements or interests. However, one of the most effective persuasion techniques is exactly the opposite: active listening. By listening carefully to what the other person has to say, you demonstrate respect, attention, and genuine interest, creating a much stronger connection than any monologue could achieve. Active listening is more than just hearing. It's a way to understand what the other really wants or needs, and this is a crucial skill to stand out. Listening actively means you're not just waiting for your turn to speak, but actually processing what's being said, asking questions that show curiosity, and responding in ways that reinforce the dialogue. Studies show that by listening attentively, we increase our ability to influence others. This happens because people feel valued and tend to remember those who make them feel this way. In a networking event, this could mean asking about the other person's work, the challenges they face, or their personal interests. A practical example of how active listening can make a big difference is by showing understanding through brief summaries or comments on what was said. Imagine your conversation partner mentions a project they're working on. Instead of quickly responding with something about yourself, you could say, "It sounds like you're really dedicated to this project. It must be challenging. What do you enjoy most about it?" This kind of response not only validates what was said, but invites the person to share even more, strengthening the connection. Applying active listening allows you to build a solid foundation for a lasting and valuable relationship. Often, the positive impression left by someone who listens is so strong that the person feels naturally inclined to keep in touch after the event. And that's exactly what we want to achieve, to create a presence that is remembered and inspires future interactions. The second persuasion technique that can help build powerful connections in networking is subtle mirroring. Mirroring is a communication technique that involves naturally and discreetly imitating the body language, tone of voice, or even facial expressions of your conversation partner. This method creates an unconscious sense of affinity, as it makes the other person feel understood and comfortable in your presence. Social psychology studies reveal that when someone sees their own gestures or posture reflected, they tend to feel greater empathy and connection with the other person. The key to mirroring is subtlety. The idea isn't to copy every move, but to adopt small aspects of the other person's posture or body language. For example, if they cross their legs, you could do the same a few minutes later. If they use a calm tone of voice, you can also adjust your tone to a similar pace. These small adaptations create an unconscious harmony that helps to break down barriers naturally, Imagine you're at a networking event and start talking to someone who speaks slowly and maintains a relaxed posture. By subtly mirroring these characteristics, you create a comfortable atmosphere and leave a positive impression, making the person feel more open to interacting with you. In contrast, if you spoke quickly or kept a tense posture, it might create a disconnect that would make it harder to connect. A practical example of mirroring is noticing the level of formality in your conversation partner's language. If they use a more technical or professional tone, adopting a similar approach contributes to the sense that you have shared interests and behaviors. Likewise, if the tone is more casual, adapting to that can also facilitate interaction. When done well, mirroring makes interactions flow more smoothly, making you a welcoming and interesting presence. This technique not only makes networking easier, but is also a powerful way to convey empathy and understanding, strengthening the foundation of any professional relationship. One of the most effective ways to stand out at a networking event is to personalize your approach. While many people introduce themselves generically, a personalized approach demonstrates attention and genuine interest in the other person, creating a deeper, more memorable connection. When you tailor your interactions to each individual, your presence becomes remarkable, and people remember you as someone who truly cares. Personalization starts with preparation. Before an event, whenever possible, it's good practice to research the participants. Information like the position, company the person works at, and even recent projects can be useful to start a personalized conversation. If you're in an event where you don't have access to this information in advance, pay attention to what the person says and use that to guide your interaction. This way, you avoid common and generic questions, like, "What do you do?" and can formulate more specific questions such as, "How is your experience with this project going?" or "What do you think about the current challenges in your field?" For example, if you know the person you're talking to works in technology and has a specific interest in innovation, adapt your approach to topics that connect with these interests. Instead of just talking about your own work, bring up topics related to their area, showing interest in what they do. This type of personalized connection shows that you value the other person's perspective and understand the value of building a conversation that isn't just about yourself. Another effective way to personalize the approach is to mention shared experiences or common points found during the conversation. Imagine that during the dialogue, the person mentions that they love working in a collaborative environment. You could share a personal experience involving teamwork and how it positively impacted your results, connecting with what they value. This creates a stronger connection and makes the person relate to you. A personalized approach in networking not only facilitates conversation, but also creates a solid foundation for a lasting relationship. When you demonstrate that you remember details about someone and ask specific questions, you position yourself as an attentive and engaged person. This is essential to transform a common interaction into a strategic professional connection. In any networking environment, it's natural to want to take advantage of opportunities to create connections that can bring professional benefits. However, one of the most common mistakes is asking for something before establishing a solid relationship. A powerful technique for creating a genuine and strategic connection is to demonstrate value before making any requests. This establishes trust, respect, and a foundation of reciprocity. Essential ingredients for any successful relationship. Demonstrating value can be done in several ways. Often it means offering help or insights, sharing resources, or simply showing an interest in contributing to the other person's goals or projects. For example, if during the conversation the person mentions a challenge they're facing, you could suggest an approach or share a similar experience that might be helpful to them. This type of contribution not only shows you're willing to help, but also demonstrates that you have something relevant to offer, which is crucial to earn the interlocutor's trust and respect. A practical approach is to ask, "How can I help?" This simple but powerful question shows that you're there not just to get something, but also to contribute. Imagine you're talking to someone who works in digital marketing and mentions difficulties in engaging with their audience. If you have experience or knowledge in the area, offering a suggestion or sharing a useful tool can be a great way to demonstrate value. This kind of gesture leaves a positive impression and creates an opening for future interactions where the other will be more inclined to help you. Value demonstrations can also be more subtle and indirect, like praising a recent achievement or expressing interest in a project the other person is working on. Often, a sincere recognition of someone's work, like, "I saw that your last project was a success, congratulations, it must have been quite a challenge," is enough to create an initial connection based on mutual appreciation. This approach creates a context where the person feels respected and open to share more about their work and challenges. Demonstrating value before asking for something turns networking into a two-way street. Instead of a transactional interaction, you create a relationship of collaboration where both sides have something to offer and gain. This strategy not only facilitates the initial contact, but also opens doors to future opportunities because you'll be remembered as someone who contributes rather than just someone who wants something in return. Stories have the power to engage, inspire, and create an emotional connection, something mere information or data cannot achieve. In a networking context, knowing how to tell relevant stories can be one of the most effective techniques to highlight your skills and experiences in a way that's easy to remember. Instead of introducing yourself with a list of achievements, a well-told story helps to humanize your journey and makes you more accessible and interesting to your conversation partner. A good networking story doesn't need to be long or complex. It should be direct and focused on one main point. An effective structure is to contextualize the situation, describe the challenge faced, and highlight the solution found or the lesson learned. For example, you could talk about a challenging experience you faced on a specific project, how you overcame the obstacles, and what you learned from the situation. This type of narrative not only demonstrates your skills, but also gives a glimpse of your ability to handle problems, something highly valued in any professional environment. Another important aspect when telling stories is choosing those that are relevant to the context and to the person you're talking to. If, for example, your interlocutor works in an area focused on innovation and technology, a story about how you implemented an innovative idea or adapted a technological solution might be more impactful. This shows that you know how to adapt your experiences according to the other person's interests, which is essential to keep the conversation engaging. Additionally, sharing personal stories related to the workplace allows you to subtly but powerfully convey values and personality traits. If you want to be remembered as someone creative and resilient, tell a story that highlights these aspects. In this way, you create a narrative that isn't just about an experience, but also communicates who you are as a professional. A well-told story also makes the information easier to retain. Instead of being seen as just another person mentioning their achievements, you become the professional who shared an inspiring or curious experience. This helps you be remembered in a positive light, strengthening your position in the mind of your interlocutor. Telling relevant stories in networking is therefore a way to create a lasting connection. These stories make your skills and experiences more tangible, while leaving a personal and memorable impression that turns common interactions into opportunities for real connection. In networking, the first impression is important, but the last one can be decisive. Ending a conversation with a memorable exit is essential to ensure that you'll be remembered positively and professionally. A good conclusion not only shows respect for the other's time, but also opens doors for future interactions. Creating an exit that leaves a lasting impression can be as simple as expressing gratitude, reaffirming the interest in keeping in touch, or highlighting something that was discussed. An effective way to end a conversation is by mentioning something specific that you discussed, reinforcing what was shared. For example, if during the conversation the person mentioned a project they're involved in, you could end with a phrase like, "I'll keep an eye on the progress of that project. It sounds amazing. Let's stay in touch so I can see how it's going." This type of closing not only shows that you truly paid attention to the conversation, but also creates a future connection with the possibility of following up on what was mentioned. Another way to create a memorable exit is to offer something simple to continue the conversation later, whether a content suggestion, a mutual contact, or even an article that may interest the person. For example, "I'll send you that article on the topic we discussed. I'm sure you'll like it." This not only strengthens the initial bond, but also provides a concrete reason for the other person to remember you. Expressing gratitude is also a great way to end a conversation. A thank you for your time, "It was great to talk with someone who knows so much about the subject," is a simple gesture that generates sympathy and leaves the door open for future contacts. This kind of exit reinforces that you value the interaction and recognize the value of the person you spoke to. Creating a memorable exit makes all the difference when ending a contact at a networking event. This technique helps ensure that you'll be remembered positively and that your presence left a professional and friendly impression. With a planned exit, you turn the end of the conversation into a strategic opportunity to strengthen the connection. One of the most effective ways to engage and hold someone's attention in a networking conversation is by asking engaging questions. Well-thought-out questions not only show that you're truly interested in what the other person has to say, but also help deepen the conversation, allowing them to reveal more about their interests, challenges, and perspectives. When well formulated, engaging questions create an environment of exchange and collaboration, making the interaction more dynamic and beneficial for both sides. Generic questions like, "What do you do?" can start a conversation, but they rarely lead to memorable interactions. On the other hand, more specific and open-ended questions like, "What was the biggest challenge you recently faced in your project?" or "What inspires you most in your work these days?" encourage more detailed responses and show that you're interested on a deeper level. This gives the other person the opportunity to share meaningful experiences, facilitating an authentic connection. Another important aspect is to adapt your questions to the context and the person you're talking to. For example, if you're talking to someone who works in an area you're not familiar with, asking questions that show genuine curiosity can open up space for an interesting and educational conversation. Questions like, "What do you enjoy most about working in this sector?" or "What are the biggest trends you see emerging in your field?" show that you're willing to learn and that you value the other person's opinion and knowledge. Engaging questions also serve as a way to connect mutual interests. If you discover, for example, that the person shares a common interest, you can ask questions that develop this theme, like, "How do you apply this knowledge in your work?" or "Have you ever thought of a specific project in this area?" In this way, the conversation not only becomes more fluid, but also creates a solid foundation for future interactions where both sides identify with a relevant topic. Using engaging questions in networking is therefore a way to make the conversation more meaningful and to position yourself as someone interested and interesting. These questions not only keep the dialogue active, but also reveal unique facets of the other person, creating a connection that goes beyond the superficial. This approach reinforces the idea that you're there to get to know the other genuinely, which helps to establish a professional relationship that can be lasting and mutually beneficial. Networking doesn't end when the event does. In fact, the true value of a connection often emerges afterward. Cultivating consistency post-event is essential to transform an initial interaction into a lasting and strategic professional relationship. It's in the follow-up that you demonstrate your commitment to the contact and reinforce the value of the connection, showing that it wasn't just another passing conversation. One of the most effective ways to stay in touch after an event is to send a follow-up message, preferably within 24 hours of the meeting. This brief email or message serves to thank them for the conversation, reaffirm your interest in keeping in touch, and, if possible, refer to something specific discussed during the meeting. For example, "It was great talking about the challenges in the tech sector. I'm available for any future collaboration. Let's stay in touch." This type of message reinforces your presence and builds a foundation of trust for future interactions. Additionally, offering complementary material or a resource that may be useful to the interlocutor is also a great way to strengthen the relationship. If during the conversation you promise to send an article or share a tip on something relevant, fulfilling this promise demonstrates professionalism and attention. This simple gesture not only follows through on what was said, but also shows that you're willing to offer value even after the event. Consistency also means following up on social networks like LinkedIn. Connecting and occasionally engaging with the person's posts, whether by commenting or liking, keeps you on their radar in a subtle but effective way. This type of engagement demonstrates your ongoing interest and reminds the other person of the connection without requiring constant direct contact. Another important point is to be proactive and occasionally check in to see how the person is doing or to share relevant news in their field of interest. This type of occasional communication, whether a short message or sharing an interesting article, keeps the relationship active and relevant. By doing this, you reinforce the foundation of trust and increase the chances that the other person will remember you when an opportunity arises. Cultivating consistency post-event is therefore a long-term technique that turns a momentary connection into a high-value professional relationship. By following these practices, you strengthen your networking genuinely and build a network that will be useful and meaningful for both over time. Now that we've explored the 8 persuasion techniques for creating high-value professional connections, you're prepared to transform your networking into a strategic and impactful tool. From active listening and subtle mirroring to the importance of storytelling and asking engaging questions, each technique is a valuable resource to strengthen your interactions and ensure you stand out in a genuine and memorable way. These techniques not only increase your chances of connecting with influential people, but also build a solid and long-lasting network. By cultivating consistency post-event and always demonstrating value before making any requests, you position yourself as someone who contributes to others' growth and success. In return, people will be more inclined to help and remember you. Remember, the essence of good networking is to create professional relationships that go beyond superficial and momentary exchanges. Apply these techniques and see how your impact in interactions will become increasingly positive and lasting. And to continue improving your journey of personal and professional growth, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your experiences in the comments. In silence we learn, in wisdom we grow.